When you're addressing customers' concerns, you got to tell them, I realize these options aren't for everybody, but what I discovered, that's the initial close, is the only reason they don't enroll in the program, subscribe to the programs, purchase the programs, because they don't see enough value. Isn't that really how you feel? You got to memorize and personalize that statement, because that's what's going to take the customer closer to a close. That's the transition statement. You got to get your point across speaking clearly. You got to be precise and direct in your approach, and you got to use visuals at this point when the customer says no, after you showed them the choices they made based on price not being an issue. You have to create mental pictures in your mind. You guys are in the deals 12, 14 hours a day sometimes. How often do you get that phone call from a customer who says, "Bert, I bought a car 3 months ago. I have a flat tire. Did I purchase that tire and wheel?" That's what they asked me at the tire store. That's what they asked me at the service department. You get them all the time. And those are the stories you should be telling your customers. You know, I had Mr. and Mrs. Jones in here one day, and they choose not to enroll in the tire and wheel program. 3 months later, they give me a call. I felt really bad, you know? Because these are the things that are unpredictable. These are the things that the factory doesn't cover. I had an F&I manager at a Lexus store in Columbus, Ohio say to me one day, "You know something, Gerry? Just because the factory doesn't cover it doesn't mean it can't be covered." And I'm like, yeah, okay, great. All right, Dakota, Levi, and Frank, they're all here. Beautiful. Just because the factory doesn't cover it doesn't mean it can't be covered. And for every mile you drive, you're going to get closer and closer to a pothole. For every mile you drive, you're going to get closer and closer to a breakdown. It might not be this car, it might not have been the last car, but it could be the next car. You never know. So paint mental pictures in the customer's mind, all right? Choose your word tracks carefully. Memorize and personalize. Tell real event stories. You have plenty of them. How many of you have actually paid for a repair on your own car? How many of you actually had a ding or dent in your vehicle, or had to replace tires because of a road hazard, or keys, or chipped windshield? Think about that. Tell the customer that story. I have an F&I manager that I knew, well, I still know him. I haven't spoken to him for a number of years, but he's in a Honda store, and he was telling me he sells 65, 70% service contracts. What's your story? He says, I tell people about the story when I bought a Dodge Ram truck. It was a used truck. I was on my honeymoon. I was crossing across the Panhandle, coming back to Clearwater, and I was going over a bridge. It was like 95 degrees out, and my car overheated. I had to get across the bridge, blew the motor. They towed the vehicle to a dealership. I was looking at a $7,000 repair. They traded me out of that vehicle, and I'm still paying for it today because of the $7,000 deficit I had on the trade-in. Now I'm buying service contracts. And I'm like, that's a really good story, all right? But it doesn't pertain to Honda. And this is what he said to me. Well, I tell him it was a Honda Accord. It works. Be enthusiastic, confident, and well-versed. And the only way you're going to get well-versed is to memorize and personalize and know your products and what they do and what they don't do. The best way to find out what a product does, ladies and gentlemen, is to look at what it doesn't cover. Because what it doesn't cover, it doesn't cover. And that leaves everything else that it covers. So when you're reading your contracts, don't go through all the minutia. Just look at what's not covered, and I think it will give you a clear indication of what is covered. All right, apply the 4 steps, and I'm going to go over them right now. All right, just think about it. Who doesn't want the coverage? Seriously, who doesn't want it? I found the real reason folks choose not to enroll in an option, they just don't see enough value. That's it. I've been saying it long enough, all right? There's more to these options than meets the eye. Let me explain, okay? Which option would you select if money were a concern? What if it were free? There's nothing wrong with saying that. So here we go. Step number 1, we have to acknowledge they have an objection. And what step 1 does for you is it gives you a time to think of how you're going to address their concern. You know, I've had it before and never used it. All right, I get it. You probably feel you wasted your money. Or, you know what? That's a lot of money. I get it. It may seem like a lot of money on the surface, but there may be another way of looking at it. You mind if I share something with you? And then you ask, well, what's your understanding of the factory warranty? Well, you know, it's a Honda. It's my 3rd Honda. I never had a problem in the past. You know what? I would have second thoughts with a Honda as well, especially in the past. But look at the vehicle you're purchasing now compared to the last vehicles you owned. With all that technology, it's a whole different car. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. That's the reason why you should reconsider your decision not to enroll in a service contract, especially the miles you're going to be driving and the time you're going to own it. Let me explain why I feel you should enroll in the service contract based on the information you gave me. That's all conversational. The customer may say to you, you know what, I'll just take my chances.
I'll take my chances.
All right, I get it. I've had that. I've heard customers say they want to take their chances. What I hear really is that you see a risk. Isn't that really what you're saying? Well, yeah, there's a risk in everything. Well, why would you want to assume that risk? Wouldn't you want someone else to assume that risk? No, I'm willing to take that risk. Okay, I guess you're willing to take that risk, but you mind if I ask you a question? No, go ahead, ask me a question. What's your understanding of the factory warranty? What's your understanding of the high cost to replace those low-profile tires and wheels? I'm going to share with you a number of tools that you can use in order to convince the customer as well. So the first step is acknowledge and get them involved in the conversation. The second step is kind of put empathy and perspective talking in action by siding with them and asking for permission. One of the nice things about the second step is you say, may I share something with you? May I show you something? And they say, okay, go ahead. You now have permission to proceed. You're not taking their time anymore. You've asked for their time and they gave it to you. You know, I've had other customers feel the same way. I wouldn't expect you to enroll in the program if you didn't see the benefit. There may be another way of looking at it. Do you mind if I share something with you? Or do you mind if I explain something? So that's the second step. And what it does is set you up to go to the third step. So now that you've given me permission, all right, I got to ask questions or make statements to help redirect your thinking as a customer. So is there anything else preventing you from moving forward other than the price? No. Okay. So I'm asking you want to reconsider not enrolling in these programs because of something you mentioned to me earlier. All right. So open up that conversation and watch what happens. I can't stress enough. I know I'm saying that a lot. This is a really exciting point for me because some of you I've sat in front of and gone through this exercise, and it's almost like you look at me and say, what are you, a friggin' magician? No, I just practice, drill, and rehearse. Someone says no to me, I keep going. There's nothing you can say to me that's gonna stop me unless you legitimately say, stop. Look, I'm only gonna own the car for a year, all right? I'm giving the car to I got answers for everything. So I'm going to share with you some of the questions that you should ask in the third step. And then once you get some sort of agreement from the customer, you go right to the fourth step, close them. Now that we settled that, I'll need your okay here. Now that you see the benefit, doesn't it make sense to enroll in the program? And that's the 4 steps to ejection process. So why are they hesitant? What's preventing them from committing? I know they want it. It's just a matter of justifying the cost. That goes through my mind every single time a customer says no. There's basically 3 hesitations, and they're not necessarily in this order. No money. They feel they don't have the money. I can't afford to spend any more money. I have to stay in a certain budget, or that's a lot of money, all right? That all pertains to them getting a feeling they don't have enough money. You have to prove to them that they do. They feel there's no need. I take really good care of my car. I do my own repairs and maintenance. My friend's a mechanic. I never had a problem in the past. It's my 3rd Honda. You know what? I'll just take my chances. I really don't need it. I don't want it. I had it before and didn't need it. Never used it. Never had a problem in the past. There's no need in the customer's mind. And then no sense of urgency. Do I have to let you know now? Can I think about it? I already have a 3-year warranty. Why pay for something I already have? Those are the things they're going to say to you. Those are nothing more than hesitation, okay? We have to learn how to overcome those hesitations. I got to tell you something. The only reason they refuse to buy from you is because they don't trust you. And I'm looking out at you guys in this webinar, and you guys are all trustworthy. So don't screw it up. Go out there and make a connection with the customer. Learn something about the customer. Give them that DIMTY I talked about. We got AT-type personalities. And, you know, sometimes we say to ourselves, well, what's this friggin' DIMTY? It matters, man. It works. When people like you, people trust you, they have a tendency of listening more intently to you. And that's what it's all about. You got to be a chameleon, you know? You got to go with the flow. You got to, you got to be like, get inside their head, okay? So when they say I can't afford it, I can't spend any more money, you got to look at it and say, it's not a question of affording it, it's a question of not wanting to spend the money, all right? Because I'm sure you can afford it if you really think about it. Because like most people, you budget monthly. You have enough money in the bank to pay your bills, including the car payment, insurance, gas, food, everything, right? Sometimes you may pay a little bit less on the credit cards because you don't have enough money in the bank, but you're getting by, right? But every day you're out there spending money. I mean, how much do you spend in the average day? I spend between $5 and $10 a day. What do you spend? Well, about the same. So you do have disposable income, right? So why don't you apply that disposable income to save you money later on if something were to happen? What do you mean? Well, you got enough money to pay the car payment, $600 a month. You're comfortable with that, right? Well, sort of. I wanted to only be $500. Yeah, but $600, you know what that represents a day in a payment? What? That's $20 a day. You're paying $20 a day for the car. What's another buck or two? Yeah, you're right. Exactly. So for $3 more, you can have all this. Well, I don't want it all. How about just a service contract? It's $1.25. You in? I'm in. I take really good care of my car. I get it. You can take the best care of your car, but how often do you go into a parking lot, park your car, look back on your way into the supermarket, and make sure that you're like 3 feet away from the car standing next to you? All the time. So you do care about your car, right? And have you ever had a ding or dent in your car? Yeah. How'd you feel? I wanted to kill somebody. Exactly. Though the factory warranty covers the mechanical and electrical aspects of the vehicle, what do you have against that person that put that ding in your car in the past? A gun. No, that's not going to work. You got to find them first, all right? You have the fabric and paint treatment now. So I'm trying to illustrate making it more up-to-date conversation with the customer, make it conversational and make it something that they can relate to rather than all sales pitch. So it all takes your willingness to memorize these word tracks, personalize these word tracks so that you can run around the word track and make them your style. Okay? So, no money. Customer says one of those things that pertain to, I don't think I have the money. I understand. It's hard to justify the cost. You don't see the benefit. I know there's some redundancy here. To see if it'd be beneficial, do you mind if I share something with you? I get it. It's hard to justify the added expense if you don't see enough value. May I share something with you? I understand. The last thing you want to have happen is your payment to go up when you come into my office. But there may be another way of looking at it. Most folks budget monthly and spend daily. May I share a thought with you? And then the best close I can go to is the calculator close or the cell phone close. I'm going to share with you in just a minute. No need. I got the answer. I realize how to see the benefit if you don't feel a need. You mind if I ask you a question? Ladies and gentlemen, you have to memorize this. Because how many times, and be honest with yourself, how many times do you say this to a customer when they say, you know what, I'll take my chances. You know, it's my third Honda, you know? How many times you said to the customer, I realize it's hard to see the value if you don't feel a need. Maybe another way of looking at it. You mind if I share something with you? You open up the customer's mind. It's absolutely ridiculous, okay? When you say I'll take my chances, can I assume you see somewhat of a risk? I get it. Not having to use the options in the past would make me think twice about it as well. But there may be another way of looking at it. You mind if I share something with you? You know, why pay for something you feel you don't need? I realize how to see the benefit. And then you ask them questions. What's your understanding of the manufacturer's warranty? Let them tell you. And then you explain to them what it is. What's your understanding of the cost to replace those low profile tires and wheels? The cost to maintain the vehicle according to the manufacturer's recommendation? The cost to repair, reprogram those keys? The effect your vehicle's appearance has on its trade-in value or its resale value? How about your insurance company's responsibility should you have a total loss? And what's your responsibility, at least then? What's your understanding of those things? And what the customer says to you, I don't know. Can you explain? You're going to sell them product. This is nothing more than getting the customer involved and engaged in a conversation with you. And more than often, they convince themselves to buy the product. They tell you all the reasons why they should buy it. I mentioned Terry Moore, an F&I manager out in Columbus, Ohio. And I was watching him do a presentation one day several years ago, and I was sitting in the corner, and the customer was an old farmer, and wearing overalls and cowboy hat and everything, you know, a little straw hat. And you know the gentleman, very smart, very soft-spoken, and he just bought a brand new Ram truck, and Terry's going over all the options with the customer, and the customer looks at him and says, I never buy that stuff. And Terry looks at him and says, why? I just don't think it's worth it. And Terry looks at him and goes, you know, maybe another way of looking at it. Do you mind if I ask you a question? And this guy looks at him and goes, you can ask me all the questions you want. I'm not buying it. So Terry takes a step back. He sits back and he goes, you know what, Mr. Jones, I just want to ask you one question. I know you're not going to buy any of this, but let me ask you a question. What do you think other people should buy? What options on that I just shared with you do you think other people should buy? Not you. I understand you never buy this stuff, but what do you see value in for other people? I'm just curious because I want to be able to share your thoughts with my customers. Because you seem like you're a very wise man. The guy looks at him and goes, well, I think that service, you know, that warranty is good, and I think that tire and wheel thing is good. And Terry looks at him and goes, why do you feel that way? And the guy's telling him all these things. And Terry looks at him and goes, yeah, those are all the reasons why you should enroll in the program.
Got him!
And the guy goes, you got me. And he bought it. I mean, it's like you're not on a speed drill when the customer gets in your office. I know sometimes you think you are because you got these sales consultants, Mike, doing the F&I dance out in the window, Wally, you know, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. You know, I'm going to come out to your desk when you're selling a car to a customer and go, man, you've been sitting with this customer 3 hours. You about ready to close the guy? Come on, let's go. Give me time to make some money for everybody, okay? So The point I'm trying to make is take your time, all right? All this, the processes I'm sharing with you, they may seem like, man, this is a lot of work to memorize all this stuff. But I'm telling you right now, this is the process. If you follow it, it runs so smoothly. You run right through it, okay? No sense of urgency. You want to eliminate, reduce the number of times a customer says to you, do I have to let you know now? I have 3 years already. Why pay for something I already have? You want to reduce the number of times a customer says that to you? Then stop explaining the factory warranty to them before you do a presentation. When you explain the factory warranty to a customer, you basically put them in a safe haven. Seriously, you can't dissect the factory warranty and make it sound bad. It's a good warranty. It virtually is bumper to bumper. It covers every component in that vehicle. Oh, the old saying is, you have a limited factory warranty. It's limited. What do you mean limited? It's limited to 3 years of 36,000 miles, or 5 years of 60,000 miles. That's the limitation, all right? Period. And you would say it's a limited warranty. Oh, I got your attention now. It's limited to what? Oh, it doesn't cover fabric and paint, doesn't cover the exterior, interior, doesn't cover dings and dents, doesn't cover tires, wheels, doesn't cover batteries. Verbal vomit. Okay? You have a wonderful factory warranty. It's a beautiful factory warranty. The problem is you're going to run out of it based on your driving habits. And now what are you going to do? Okay? That wonderful warranty that you had is gone. What are you going to do now? Are you going to go with one of them third-rate car friggin', what do they call it? The car medic, warranties that you pay $100 a month forever and they don't cover anything? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to go to your credit union where they don't have a service department? That drive up in the credit union is not a service department. There's no service department there. They don't know how their service contract performs because you're not calling them with problems. You're calling us. You're beating us up when the warranty doesn't cover anything that you bought from a credit union. So I can certainly appreciate how you feel. Saying you want to think about it. Do I have to let you know now? Can I assume that you are somewhat interested in the program? Yes, I am. Okay, let me review the benefits, the features of the program one more time before you leave. Let them off the hook and then go after the close. I know sometimes these decisions are hard to make. There may be another way of looking at it. You might if I share something with you. And I can appreciate you wanting to wait. That's certainly an option. Obviously, you wouldn't consider waiting unless you had some real interest in the program, right? Yep. Okay, you're opening up dialogue. To see if it'd be beneficial to take advantage of the product now, do you mind if I ask you a question? What's your understanding of the factory warranty? I understand how you must feel. Why pay for something you feel you wasted time in the past? There may be another way of looking at it. These word tracks are killer. They work, all right? They open up doors. So not enough value. That's what it all comes down to. And what we got to do is we got to build value. It all comes down to the customer not seeing enough value. How many F&I managers do I sit in front of and they say, what's the matter? You don't see any value? And the customer says, no, I don't. Where are you going now? I get it. You don't see value. You don't see enough value because all these products have some type of value. So stop saying you don't see any value, and say you don't see enough value. I get it. You don't see enough value. What do you see the most value in? What do you see the least value in? Okay? Not that you don't see any value. Because I got to tell you something. When you say you don't see any value and the customer says, no, I don't see any value, you're done. Is it the price or is it the value? I hear that a lot. Is it the price or the value? That's the same thing. And the only way that you're going to determine if you say that is to tape yourself. I can sit there, listen to your presentation, critique your presentation. And Vicky, I've done it a number of times with you, right? Sat there and listened to you and then shared with you. But the only way you can commit it to memory is to tape yourself over and over and over again. I recently sat with Zach Wazinski. You guys know him, Lance, Wally. I sat with him and he was struggling in F&I. And then what we did was we taped training session. And I reviewed the down menu with him. I gave him some suggestions. And this is a success story for him, not me. It's just a matter of making him realize. As a coach, all I do is hold up a mirror and show you your faults. And that mirror, you're the one that determines how you're going to improve. So what I did is I just coached him a little bit here and there. And I said, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. He was at $900 a car. He ended the month of January. A week later, he ended the month of January at $1,300 a car. And now he's on a roll. Once you get into your zone and once you learn all this stuff and you practice, drill, and rehearse on your own, look, I write presentations down all the time. Redo my training manuals once, twice a year. And that keeps me on top of my game. And in order for you to be on top of your game, you have to take the time to do that. When was the last time you picked up an industry journal and learned something about our industry? You might be a hunter, you might be a fisher, you might be a golfer, you might sew, I don't know. You pick up those books, learn something about selling, practice, drill, and rehearse. That way, you'll remember to say not enough value rather than any value. Which do you prefer to be, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, proactive or reactive? What's that mean? That means you can go to work, drive your car every day with a life preserver on, or you can wait till something happens and I'll throw you a life preserver. The problem with throwing you a life preserver is I don't know how far out in the ocean you are. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get it in, and I don't know the cost of saving you. If you're proactive and eliminate the uncertainty, you take the mystery out of the equation. So you have a choice today to be proactive against non-essential spending or reactive against non-essential spending. That's your choice. And all I want to share with you is those choices. It's your choice, not mine. Okay? That's another way of looking at it. Proactive versus reactive. Proactive, you're protected the whole time. Reactive, you're only going to protect yourself. It's like prevention or cure. What would you rather do? Would you rather prevent something from happening, or would you rather be faced with the cure? How many times as you get older, I hate this one because I'm getting older, you reach for the medicine cabinet. Think about that. The older you get, the more often you reach for the medicine cabinet. It's the same thing with your car. The more miles, the more hours, it's going in the shop more often. People can relate to that type of dialogue. Seriously. Maybe they're not the way you're looking at it, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and they're older people. You know, the older you got, the more often you go to the medicine cabinet, right? Yeah. Well, with all this technology and the more hours and cycles this vehicle goes through, it's going to be in the shop more. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, that's why you should reconsider your decision not to roll in a service contract. So talk in terms of proactive or reactive. You got to make them make a choice. Look, dude, pick something, will you? Will you just pick something? I'm not interested. Pick something. What if it were free? Come on. What if it were free? What if I could give you one of these things? Would you take it? Yeah, which one? That one. Get them to make a choice, because once they make the choice, convincing them is that much easier. You have to sell based on what's relevant to them. And you have to make something relevant based on the information you gathered during the sale or during the introduction. That's how you get them to make a choice. You want to give your customer a good reason to reconsider. And the only way you can get the customer to reconsider is if you've done a wonderful introduction and gathered information from them so that you can say to them, you mentioned this to me earlier, or you told me so. Without that, you can't have them reconsider. How about discover the real reason why they're hesitating? Initially, they're hesitating because of knee-jerk reaction. I really don't want any of that stuff. Okay, what is it about the service contract? What is it about these programs that concerns you? Well, they're a lot of money. Yeah, but look at all they do. Well, what do you mean? Well, let me explain. It's that simple. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that easy. Look, I'll take my chances. I get it. I've had other customers feel the same way. But when you say you're taking your chances, I kind of hear you saying there's somewhat of a risk. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Why would you want to assume that risk? Well, because I can. You can. Yeah, if something goes wrong, I got enough money in the bank. Well, why would you want to tap into your savings, especially in this economy? That's what I do. I save enough money. How about saving $30 a month for anything that happens to your vehicle? What are you talking about? Buy the bundle. You have the warranty for the next 3 years at 36,000 miles, but you don't have anything to protect yourself against tires, damage, key replacement, dings or dents. And you said you saved the money. Why don't you just add it to your monthly payment? You're paying 3.9%, $30 a month. Anything happens, you don't have to go into your savings. If you don't have the rebuttals and you don't practice drilling and rehearse, you can't say that to the customer. You're kind of like left like a deer in the headlights. And sometimes you just really got to drive it to the money. What if it were free? I've told this story a number of times about Ken Cadmus. He was a sales consultant at a Subaru dealership in West Palm Beach, Florida. And he was a very good sales consultant. And what he ended up doing is he ended up getting promoting to a Volkswagen store that the dealer owned in West Palm Beach as an F&I manager. He went to a 5-day school that I held in Clearwater, Florida when I was at UDS. He leaves the class. He does really well in the class. He goes back to the dealership, and the dealership he goes to never ran more than $800 a car and never sold more than one product per deal. And that's a pretty good F&I manager in there. After all, it's Volkswagen. Well, that's the perception anyways. He goes into the store and he's running $1,400 a car, 2 products per deal. And it just so happens that his best friend is the general sales manager. So the dealer principal says to me one day, calls me and says, Gerry, you got to come up and take a look at what Ken and Brian are doing. I think there's some gray area here because we've never done $1,400 in that store. And now I got these guys' best friends. One's a sales manager, the other's the F&I man. I think he's feeding them. All right, I'll go up there, check it out. So I go up there and I go through a few deals, and there's nothing gray in those deals. I sit with Ken. I go, Ken, what are you doing, man? How do you get to $1,400 a car? He goes, Gerry, I do everything you said except for one thing. I go, oh yeah, what's that? He goes, At the end of my presentation, I say, what if it were free? And I never did that before. I never said, what if it were free? Because I was always in fear. What if it were free? What if they say, I'll take it all, And I said that to them. I said, what if it were free? What do they say? They go, well, I'll take it. Well, what if they say I'll take it all? Because I only say, what if it were free? What 2 options would you select? He goes, if they say I'll take it all, I look right at him and say, I can't give it to all of you, but I'm just curious as to what 2 you like. They go, I like those 2. Okay, and he just simply says, why do you like those 2? And just like you always said, Gerry, they just talk themselves into it. What if it were free? If it were free, I'd take them all. No, you only get to pick 2. Which ones are they? Why'd you pick those 2? I can't give them to you, but why'd you pick those? That's the reason why you should enroll in the program. Yeah, you're right. It's only $8 more a month, $12 more a month, $20 more a month. These are the things that work. A lot of the information I'm sharing with you, as I mentioned yesterday, I gather from folks just like you. So try taking them back. Take them back, man. You mean in the past you never had a problem with any of the vehicles you've owned? Looking back at all the vehicles you've owned, have you ever experienced an issue with any one of them? Well, of course I have. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you felt. And wouldn't you like some type of remedy if that would happen again? That's simple. Simple. And they're looking back at the time they had a flat tire. They're looking back at the time they had a ding or dent. They lost their keys. They had a breakdown. And you have them in a moment where they're saying to themselves, you know what? It could happen again. Or they might say to you, yeah, but it only happens, not going to happen again. But you have to develop ways to get around that, ways to address their concerns. What I'm sharing with you, the 4-step objection process is the best way. It puts you on a winning track, and you can't get off that winning track until the customer gets won out or they wear you out. It's simple, okay? Any comments? Any questions? All right, so let's do this. If you take a look at this page, I'd ask you to look at this page. I'm surprised you didn't select the vehicle service contract because someday you will be out of factory warranty. I'm surprised you had no interest in the tire and wheel because let's face it, the tires and wheels are the most vulnerable part of your vehicle. I'm surprised you didn't select the prepaid maintenance. Not only does it ensure to maintain the vehicle according to the manufacturer's recommendations, but I can assure you won't spend any more money for maintenance. I'm surprised you had no interest in the key replacement. One of the best benefits is it pays for additional keys. I'm surprised you had no interest in fabric and paint because the appearance plays a major part in its resale value. The paintless dent remove is a great complement to the environmental protection. I'm surprised you had no interest in the theft program. It's a great complement to GAP. I'm surprised you had no interest in GAP because the vehicle depreciates much faster and you're gonna pay it off. So I'm surprised you had no interest in this program. If you can't get something from the introduction, here's a means to get them as to why you recommend something. I'm surprised you had no interest in this because someday you will be out of it. I'm surprised because of the high cost to repair that. I'm surprised because of all the technology in this vehicle compared to the other vehicle. So these are nothing more than just block and tackling. So when the customer says no, in the back of your mind, you're pulling this out of your toolbox. All right? No trust, no sale.